Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and Ian's here too, man, in the comments, so say hi.
Hello.
And last week you saw us start to do a layout for Lucy passing a driving test. And the challenge is, for today, is to create as many different traffic signs as possible using just the ScanNCut, so no canvas. So who thinks that we'll manage that one? We'll see how we go.
You have your mum says morning, and so does Linda.
Hi Mum, hi Linda.
We have some others who have viewed. I don't know who.
Okay, so don't be afraid to say hi, ask questions, and we'll dive right in, shall we, Ian?
Delsey's watching.
Hi, Delsey. Hi, Tracy.
That's another Tracy. That's the other.
Yeah,
Tracy.
that's the other Australian Tracy.
Yeah. Just to throw everybody up.
Yep. Okay, so last week we did this lovely foil background. We did some sprays to pick out that foil, which we used as a resist. We used some watercolours to pick out different shapes from our background, and we created our L plate that we then cut using the ScanNCut. So we literally created it and then got the ScanNCut to cut it after.
And the other Tracy's here too. So
Hello! Okay, so I'm going to move that to one side temporarily. And let's start on the machine itself before I start to bring in cards and things. So shall we change view?
Good.
There we go. So first challenge is traffic lights. So I'm going to go into pattern, going to go to basic shapes. I'm going to scroll down and go for the one that looks most like a traffic light. And here in the UK, it's kind of a rounded rectangle really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll go for that one. Now obviously this is huge and we don't need traffic light that's that big. So I am going to just shrink that down very slightly.
Morning, Carol,
quite
and
that
morning,
much.
Nikki.
So at the moment that's about 5 centimetres tall, so a couple of inches, which I don't think is bad size for the detail that we're going to put into it. So I'm going to add that to my mat. Okay. I'm going to bring it in slightly. Go to Edit, Object Edit, Rotate, and 90 degrees. Because it's easier to work on things when they are the right way up. I'm going to go OK. Now I'm going to go to number and I'm going to go to 2. So now I have 2 and I'm going to pull one down. I'm going to go to offset and I'm going to take that offset inside. Now you don't have to do this step, it's just me being a bit of a pedantic. So that we can put a little bit of a white border around.
Say morning to Tiffany.
Morning, Tiffany.
Tiffany might be new. Not seen Tiffany before.
So I'm going to go from -4 mil and I'm going to go OK. So now we have both of those. I'm going to go OK. Going to go into multi-select. I'm going to use my window select. Going to bring it down so just those 2 shapes are in there. Go OK. OK. Object Edit, and we're going to group. So that's going to keep our outline together. Now I'm going to go back to my original shape. Now this is our background, which we're going to be cutting from our black. Now because we want to have shapes that line up with that shape, it is easier to subtract those lights from that main panel rather than trying to line them up manually when we're gluing them on. So I'm going to go OK.
And we have another Linda.
OK again.
Good morning to
Morning, Linda.
So we have 2 Lindas, 2 Tracys.
Oh, sorry to hear your arm's still sore, Tracy. So I'm going to go to Add, Pattern, Basic Shape. I'm going to go down and down to our circle. Now obviously at the moment our circle is huge for what we want. So, and let's take it down just a touch. And I'm going to add that in. So even though I know it's still a little bit too big, we're most of the way there.
Linda's saying she has a CM900 that's still in the box.
Oh, get it out! Get it out. It's no good in the box. If you need help setting it up, let us know and we will happily talk you through it, won't we?
We will, yes. And Carol says we used to have more cows, but they've deserted, so you're left with the one and only me.
Yeah, I think the other Carols had to go back to work, so unfortunately they don't tend to join in live. I think they're still watching and catch up though. So, I'm going to go to Edit, Object Edit, Resize, and I want to resize it so it fits within this border here. So we can take it right down. I'm going to use my pencil to just move it across. And just make sure that it sits within that shape. Then I can move it up here. I'm going to go OK. Going to go to number, and I need 3 of them. So there's our 3. We can position those roughly. Doesn't matter about getting it perfect just at the moment. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to go into my multi-select. I'm going to use my window select, zoom in, and I want to size my window so I'm cutting through the background, but I still have all 3 circles selected. I'm going to go OK. It's going to pick them like that.
And that's good to know, Nikki.
We can go.
Did some foiling yesterday using our pressure and speed and got a perfect result.
Yay! I like foiling. So, that little button here is going to line up those shapes so they're in a straight line. But at the moment we can see they're still slightly overlapping. So I'm going to go OK. And I'm going to zoom in. Right in. So it goes all the way to 400%. So don't be afraid to use it. And I'm going to scroll down. And we can see there isn't going to be enough room to get all of those in. So our circle's going to have to become a bit smaller. So let's take out 2 circles. And the reason that we take out the 2 is there's no point doing the same edit to 3 different shapes. It's much quicker to do it to 1 and then reduplicate them. So let's take it down to a nice round 10. Okay. I'm going to go OK again. And let's select that one and our outside shape. Going to move, align, center and center. So that's going to put that dot right in the middle of our traffic light. So we know that that one is right. I'm going to go OK. OK again. I'm going to click off it. So tap anywhere on the map and it's going to go back to just selecting one item. Now if it doesn't select that center dot, you can use these 2 arrows to cycle through the paths on your mat so you're not accidentally moving things by accident. So object edit. Now we can bring in our 2 extra copies. Go OK. And you can see that it brings them back out here again. That's okay. So we'll move one there. And that one's going to go there. I'm going to go OK. Multi-select. Window. Now this time I'm going to select it all. Go OK. Go into align and center. So I'm going to put all those dots in a straight line down the middle, but at the moment the spacing between them isn't equal. Now if we were to try and do that with that outer shape selected, it's not going to work. So go OK. Now that we've got those all sorted, OK again. Go into multi-select and tap that outer shape so it deselects. We're going to go OK, back into move, back into align, and then we can use our space between to even them out. So now we have an equal amount of space between the dots. We're going to go OK. Now if you're looking at that and thinking by the time I've applied that border that's not going to be quite right, click off it. We can move that bottom one up so that you're happy with it. Okay, and we can do the same again. So window select, take that up, go OK, OK again, move, align, distribute. So now it's even that space back up. So even if it doesn't look like it at the moment, it is still lined up. And if we zoom in, you can see that your space is now equal. You've now got room for this border to fit over the top. So we can go OK. And we can group those together.
Is there a shortcut that I can download to show what each symbol means? Just do that one. We have a cheat sheet, don't we?
We have a cheat sheet. Do we have a cheat sheet to hand?
Okay, hang on, I can get you a cheat sheet.
So we have
which one am I looking at?
either the machine or the... Is it for the CM?
Yes, she has a 900 in.
Yeah, so a CM cheat sheet would be good. So I'm just going to group those as well so that it stays with its background. And if you switch over,
Yeah.
so up on our Buy Me a Coffee we have a sheet. What is that? Sheet. Why on earth did I name it that?
I almost said something else then that's not repeatable on TV.
Yeah.
Adult warning on it.
Behave. So there is one for the CM machines, there is a separate one for DX models, and there is one for Canvas. They are available in print or digital, and you basically pay your money, and if it's a digital one it literally pops up in your downloads and you can print it out, or if it's a printed one we'll get it here and we'll send it off to you. So on one side you have all your different icons, and then let's start on the right side, shall we? So we have our initial home screen.
Go back down the touch. That's better.
Sorry, there we go. So we have initial home screen. Then you have all your different pattern options and what they include, including your premium functions, which is where you find your foiling, your line embossing. And then we're into our shape controls, which is where you find your edit buttons. You have your two little selecting buttons at the bottom here, the multi-select, the move, and the edit object. And number, which has no icon, is how we do the duplicate on the DX, which is this one here. So they do vary between the two different machines, which is why I did two separate sheets. There are things that you can't do on a CM that you can do on a DX, so they are very much targeted to that machine.
Where you got it up, do you want to show notebook?
Well, I'll go on then. I was going to save that for tomorrow, but I will do it today.
Where is it?
It's in here. Because I put it with the magazine, ready to say, look what we did. Okay, so there's also the notebook. Yay, finally have my copy. And that has, in the front of it, your basics. So we've got basic settings, calibrating the machine, draw settings and our favourite pens, Canvas workspace shortcuts for online and desktop, working with shapes, so when I'm talking about welding, dividing, and in a minute I'll be saying how you can't do subtract on here, because I would probably really like that as a feature if they ever get around to it. And we do a little practice for you to actually work on in Canvas. Then we have material list for you to fill in. So this would be things that you cut often. So I tend to stick to cardstock from Lime Tree Crafts, Paper Mill Direct and American Crafts. So I can list those in there. And at some point I will actually go through and do it so you can see it in use. Then we have project planning sheets, lots of, where you can do a sketch, work out any sort of mathematical things if you're doing something complex like 3D if you want to, or if you want to do some things to go on a blog, you've got room to leave yourself lots of notes so that you're not struggling like I do with my memory sometimes. Down the bottom here we have another material section with what blade to use, the pressure and the speed.
Okay.
So for CM people, you can put in standard and then your blade figure. For those of you that are on the DX, switch auto blade and then still put in your pressure and speed.
Okay. The link for the
Notebook?
no, cheat sheet, if you go to on screen at the moment, you should be able to see a little support me, buy me a coffee down the bottom right hand corner. If you click on that link, it will take you to our buy me a coffee page, and they are in the extras. And I will put up a link to the book. The book is £7.50 and it is on Amazon.
The cheat sheets are £4 for the digital one, I think, off the top of my head.
I can't remember.
I'm sure somebody else will say whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah. They're not expensive. And
Yeah.
they're available on there. So I will put the link up for the book as well for you. Just give me a couple of seconds to find the link again.
Okay, can you just put me back on close cam?
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so there's the first part of our traffic lights done. So now we can move our group over here. We can put the outline up here. And we will probably end up moving these about as we get to actually putting the card on that. So, if at this point you want to cut out your 3 circles out of different colours, you can do that. Personally, you may find it easier to just cut 3 little squares and then stick them to the back of your background, which is probably what I'm going to do. So, next challenge, Ian. Which sign am I doing next?
National speed limit.
National speed limit, okay. So, let's go, okay, add. And let's start off with a circle. And let's take that down a little bit. Doesn't need to be quite so big. Let's go 4 centimetres, that's okay. So there's our road sign. And to that we want to add a solid black line that's going across. Now, because on your machine you only have the option to weld, we have to do things slightly differently to be able to get things to cut correctly. So this is going to be our white background piece. We're going to go to Edit, Object Edit, Number, and we're going to go to 2. Now this second circle is going to be what cuts the sides of our black diagonal. So I'm going to go OK. OK again. And I'm going to add a thin rectangle. So we can just go for that one. We can size it down and add that in. So at the moment it's quite a bit too big. So I'm going to go into Edit, Object Edit, Resize.
Can you change that screen to inches instead of mils?
Yes. Yeah, so if you're more confident working in inches, you can work in inches. So at any point, if you... Sorry.
That's alright. The link I've just put up at the bottom is for the book. Everybody wants that one?
Okay. So to change, if I go okay, to change between your measurements, if you go down to your little spanner, you can swap there between millimeters and inches, and you can do that at any point when you're resizing anything, which is really useful. I tend to hop between the two because when it's something that I'm trying to compare to something else, I tend to find it easier to do it in inches just because of counting squares on the mat. Or if I'm doing something a bit more precise, I find millimeters are easier, so it's horses for courses. So I'll go OK. Now this little button here with the 2 sets of arrows is how we can edit things independently. So for example, this height here is way too wide, so I can take that down without losing any width. Okay. Now I'm going to take that width down a touch because I only want it to just overlap that circle. Okay, we can go OK. Now, in theory, we could cut that so it goes straight across and it wouldn't make any difference. But just for my reference, I am going to rotate it. And I can go OK. OK. Multi-select. Use that window. Bring it down. OK. OK. Move. Align. Center and center. So that I know it's going through that center point then. I'm going to go OK. OK. Then Object Edit and Group. So again, those 2 elements then are grouped together and we can move those about. Now that one's going to be cut out black, so I can move that over there. And this one's going to be cut out white, so I can start to go, well actually, those 2 elements are white, they can stay together. Okay, so the next one that we were going to try and do was no entry, wasn't it?
Yeah, if you wanted to.
Yeah. So, to do that, I'm going to go back to that circle, number, and I'm going to add 2 more, so that we have 3 on the map. One of which is going to stay being our white circle. Now, we're going to want one that is a cross through, so we may as well duplicate that one, save for doing the same work again. And that one's going to be cut out of red. And then this one we're going to go back to, and again we can go to offset, and we can go to a negative offset so that it's going inside our original shape. And because our other one was 4mm, I'm going to stick to that same 4mm and go OK.
So what's the new ScanNCut called?
The one that's literally just come out, the...
No. What's the name of your DX?
What, this one?
Yeah. Because the CM Cindy.
Dolly, didn't we say?
Is it Dolly?
Yeah, because it's Dolly the DX.
Dolly the DX, there you go.
Yeah, Cindy with it is the CM. So it made sense to call it Dolly, really.
Trace is confused.
So has Cindy actually left home, has she? Nah. So again, because we want to keep this together as an outline, we're going to use group. And
looks like it's been sold.
again, that's going to be red, so we can cut it from that same piece. So, working in columns, we have black stuff, white stuff, red stuff. What should we go for next, Ian? This is interesting, this one, because I don't drive.
You could do with a triangle to go with your traffic lights, because your traffic lights generally sit in a triangle, not in if you're having a traffic light sign, they generally sit in it.
Oh no, but it's actually going to be an actual traffic
That's
light.
going to be an actual traffic light. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Off then. Well, one way.
One way. So that's a
That's a
rectangle
rectangle.
with an arrow at the
That's
top and one way underneath, isn't it?
Or you can just have it with an arrow and doesn't have to have one way at all.
Can I? Oh,
Yeah.
right. That's good. Anything that means I can skip doing text on the machine. Okay, so rectangle. So again, I'll go for a rounded rectangle.
Yeah, they're definitely rounded.
And let's reduce that down a bit. It's a little bit too big. I don't mind them changing scale between elements because it's going to be kind of one of those layouts that's going to be scattered anyway. I'm going to add that in.
I won't make you try and hill gradient, Natalie. Yeah, that's a nice easy one.
So, object edit, I'm going to rotate it. Okay. Number 2. Okay. So one's going to be white, one's going to be blue, so we can pop that up there in our new bit. Now, what I'm going to show you is another way that we can actually work with offset. So rather than create a white border that's going to stick onto a blue background, this time I'm going to use the blue background over the white. So if we go to our blue, I'm going to go to offset. I'm going to go inside, so we're still going to do that same 4 mil.
What does the orange light mean in your traffic lights? Depending on which way they're going, because it shows on both ways. So if it's going towards red, it's prepared to stop, and you should be stopping. And if it's going towards the green, it is prepared to go. So we generally have, yeah, cautions is an easy way, but yes, but you're basically when you have your lights going from red to green, you have red, orange, and then green, and then going back the other way, they go green, orange, red. So depending on which way you're going, obviously. So there you go. That's the proper definition for you. And Linda's asking, apart from AutoCut, can the CM900 do what the STX does? Yes.
Within reason. There's a few things it can't do, like it. The CM can't do the paper perking.
But for basic
For basic elements, yeah, the basic thing is they both cut, they both draw. The CM900 could do an offset, whereas 700 and below can't. So everything that I've just done, you can do on your 900. So with this outer shape, we're going to get rid of it. So if we go OK, we can bin it and go OK, and it's still going to keep that inner shape. So what we can do is we can actually cut our arrow from this blue background rather than having to have it as a separate little fiddly piece. So that's a really good technique to use for anything that is going to be little, where you're not going to want to get to the point where you're having to use glue pens and tweezers to actually line it up. Actually think about reversing it out of the shape.
And Tracy, yes, a lot of people in the UK seem to think that the orange means to speed up, but you know, it's just supposed to be prepared to stop.
I have to say though, it's not as bad as in Belgium. Belgium was scary. Belgium was like, stop is advised but not enforced. Cross the road at your own risk. Okay, so if you go into our basic shapes, and let's see what we've got. We've got some arrow type things that we can actually use in our basic shapes. So let's see what else we've got. I'm trying to think. It's the sides come down straight, don't they, on the arrow?
They do.
This is where my brain's going. Okay, so
it's square at the bottom.
Is
so
it?
It's a rectangle attached to the triangle, basically.
All right, so it's not like I was thinking it was like I was thinking it was like this. Pen. actually, it's okay, I'll use a pencil. So I was thinking it was like this, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong here.
Yeah, that's basically, but you could do it with just a triangle stuck on top.
You know, what you're saying is just do it like that for sheer laziness. So, okay.
If you can't find one in YouTube.
If I can't find one, let's just test out my basic shapes designs first, in case there might be one in there. So, let's try that one and see if there's anything in there. Nope.
Do we go to the brother website?
You see, you've got that one that you could use. If you can edit it.
Okay. Do we go to the brother website for upgrades?
Yes.
Depends what upgrades. 'Cause
Oh, if you mean like the expansion cards and things, then you need to go to a retailer. But in terms of firmware updates and canvas updates, then yes, you would go to the brother site for that.
And the 900 should do it automatically.
Yes, the 900 should come up and automatically do it. Those of you who have the DX models, I've done the update and it's fine. It's just to enable the new rotary blade. So if you haven't got it, don't worry about it. I think...
I'll give you a quick rundown of what we've had in the middle. A lot of drivers in Europe seem to use the same system. That is scary. Tracy said game of chicken, anyone? Long, that's from Emma. And then it's a bit like driving in Milan then. If the traffic light is red but there's nothing coming, they go anyway.
Okay, so I'm thinking I'm going to be clever.
Aye.
Yeah, so I'm going to put in, and I'm going to work big on this one, just because it's easier. So first of all, I'm going to do the centre arrow and go okay. So that's the centre stem. Then I'm going to add on.
Phone in airplane mode. You just had a notification. It's gone now.
You can always flick it off temporarily and put it onto airplane mode. Then I'm going to go to add pattern, basic shape, and if we scroll down, we have a parallelogram.
Okay, so
I think.
Deb says morning, she forgot about the times. Tracy's asked what is the new rotary blade good for, and Havana says she's ordering my rotary blade soon.
And Linda says, can we watch this again on YouTube? So,
yes you can.
Yes you can. You can catch up with all of our streams on YouTube, of which there should now be well over 700, I believe.
Something daft like that.
If not heading to the 800s.
Or
Because we've been
Facebook
doing
as well.
this well over a year now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Rotary blade. Rotary blade is good for anything that snags. So, things like fabric, but also things like crepe paper, tissue, rice paper, anything that is prone to ripping with standard blades. So, even dare I say things like the Linear 4 paper would probably prefer the rotary blade to a standard blade, because it's a rotary blade, it literally means that the cut force is straight down rather than trying to pull it.
Yeah, give me a sec, I'll find the link for
So felt would be another one. Okay, so our parallelogram. La 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 la. I'm going to bring that in. A lot. And I'm going to go to edit. Object edit. And I'm going to rotate it again so that it's going to form one side of my arrow. So if we go here, you can start to see what I'm planning. So there's my centre stem, and then we've got our parallelogram. So now I can go, well actually this needs to be a little bit narrower. So we can go to resize, use our ratio button, and we can take that down. and I can move it across. So I want it so that my stem lines up roughly halfway there. If you can't get it exactly where you want it to, don't worry, we can use the move tool and the nudge buttons to nudge it where we need to. So now we can look at our parallelogram and actually edit that to where we want it. So I'm quite happy with in terms of the width, but it's probably a little bit, just a little bit too tall. So again, going to resize, use our ratio button, and we can reduce our height. So at this moment in time, I'm not worrying about the overall scale of my arrow. I'm just concentrating on getting the right shape. So as it starts to come down, you can see this angle's altering slightly, so you don't want to take it too far. I'm going to go OK. Then I'm going to go to number and get 2. Now with this new one, we can use our mirror button, which is this one in the middle here, and that's going to reflect it round the other way. So that is going to give us the other side to our arrow, like so.
Linda's also asked, what paper or card brand do you recommend?
So I use a lot of Lime Tree Craft, Paper Mill Direct and American Crafts. I have also used some of the Dovecraft texture cardstock in the machine, and it quite likes that one, and the Paper Mania luxury cardstock as well. But for the most part, including the background that I'm working with on the scrapbook today, that is Lime Tree Craft. So they tend to be the most reasonably priced. Is that a good way of putting it? Good value for money.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for your basic cardstock, so there's a lot you can do just using white on its own and your inks to colour, then I do recommend a nice big pack from Lime Tree. And I'm sure Ian can go into specifics of how much and which ones, if you ask him nicely.
Need to do an order for running out.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a window around our 2 shapes. I'm going to go OK. And I'm going to use that to line up my shapes so that I know they're level. So if we go up to align to top, that's going to put them so that they are level. Now it may be at this point they're not quite meeting, so you can see that you've got a thicker red line in the middle. So I'm going to go OK. I'm going to click off. I'm going to zoom in, and already just going to 200 you can see they're not quite meeting, so I'm going to zoom in some more. I'm going to use my scroll so that I can see that join. Now I can use my arrows to nudge, and we want it so that they either overlap or touch. So
Yes,
you've got to be.
They do have very good delivery times as well. They're usually next day, aren't they?
So I'm going to go OK. Now that we know that they are pretty much touching, I'm going to go to multi-select. I'm just going to tap on there and go OK. Now we're going to object edit, and I'm going to weld them at this point. If it says that one, it's just that it's not quite overlapping enough yet, so go OK and click off so that it just has that one selected. Go back into move, zoom in some more, scroll down and across and nudge across 1. Go OK. OK, multi-select, tap the other side and weld. Now, because they've nudged that a little bit, it's going to say, is it okay to weld the pattern outline? And it's saying it's irreversible. So in other words, you can't use that undo function on the machine to go back. And that is fine, so I'm going to go OK. And that is the top of our arrow done. Then if we want to, we can still go in and edit that. So if we want to reduce the height, we can do. And if we want to increase the width of our arrow so that it looks right, we can do that too. We can then go into our multi-select, select the two, OK, object edit and weld, and there's our arrow. We go OK. We can move that over our blue background, and at the moment we can see it's going to knock it all out. So we're going to go into Resize and we're going to take that right down. So now you can see why I say if it's small, if you cut it out of something else, then you don't have to worry if your precious snags or if it's going to be strong enough for you to actually glue, if it's going to be wide enough for your nib or your glue pen, and if it's going to be aligned. You don't have to worry about any of that. So I'm going to go back to multi-select, select our blue background and our arrow, OK, move, align, center and center, and there we go. Go OK, OK, object edit and group. So that groups as one. What's the next one you wanted me to do?
Hill gradient.
Hill gradient. So that's a triangle with a
line through it, but line up it. But that's
yeah.
the warm one now. I think you'd have to do it that way because
yeah.
It's text as well, because you have to put a ratio or a percentage on it. So depending on which way.
Okay. nice challenge that one.
Although looking at time, don't get you have Leslie at 12:30 today.
Yeah, Leslie's at 12:30 today, so I don't want to cross into Leslie. So I will.
I would do designing today. Maybe we cut them out tomorrow.
Okay.
Put them together tomorrow.
So just because we've got this far, I'm just going to save that to my machine. Once you save, you can't group, but that's fine. Everything is on those grouped for a reason. So I'm going to go OK. Just because.
Just so you'll be able to know how to drive after this now.
I know most of the road signs, don't I?
Yeah, you're not too bad. I think it's lucky we didn't say motorway sign with the roundabout and junction.
I did wonder if to try and do something like that because it is such a challenge to do it. I might, yeah.
Don't know if you'd be
Yeah,
able to
but
do
you
it
could,
with
because if you use that top bit that I used to do the arrow,
yeah.
you could cut that out of the white bit to do your roundabout so that you pointed in the right direction would be a good idea, Natty. But you know what I mean.
Gal says that was next year and you spoiled sport.
Yeah, so
you saved USB in that, but you said machine.
Yeah, I saved it to USB because I think my machine is running out of room. So, what you would do is you would have your circle, then your offset, and then you would have your
arrows coming off.
Arrow like that, cutting into it. So, although it would then cut that line, it would miss out that section when you pulled it off the mat. Is how you would do that bit. And then you could weld on your...
You'd have to have several because you couldn't have just one. You know.
Well, no, that'd be a bit of a pointless roundabout if there was just one sending you back the way you came. So then you would weld that to that, and that to that, and that to that.
Emma said to tell you we don't have roundabouts, we have overbouts, but I call them egg yolks. Okay.
Like the mini roundabouts that we have here, I think.
Oh, right,
where everybody
yeah.
just goes over the top.
Yeah.
So,
we have many roundabouts similar.
do you want me to try and do this triangle sign?
What, the
Yeah.
hill climb?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's try that then. But it's really good to practice things like this that you know really well, and it's like, how do you do it? And then just thinking about the method helps you.
Shapes as well, isn't it? And
Yeah, it's good practice. So we have a triangle with rounded corners. Look at that. Everybody says, why does it have so many basic shapes? This is why it has so many basic shapes. Because they can all be converted and used for different things. It's just a case of just seeing which bits. So, I'm going to shrink it down slightly. Now remember, the smaller that you do it at this point, the harder it's going to be to do things like text. So don't take it too small to begin with. Now, because I know I'm going to end up duplicating that, I can put the number 2 up in that window to save me having to do that duplicate step. So we can go set, and it's going to add it straight onto the mat. So we're going to have one that is red, which is going to be the outline one, and we're going to have one that is white, so I can bring that down there. Now our red one, again, we're going to want to put a border around that outside. Our GPS always tells us that we have to go over the top of the roundabout, otherwise it yells at us rerouting. Where was it? Where was the other day where it lost its signal and it went had us in the middle of a field somewhere. That's usually what ours does. So, edit, object edit, offset, and this time, because we're going to go in but we're going to be shrinking it down, we're going to do our offset more. So I'm going to take it down to -8. So by the time that we shrink that down, it should work out at roughly about -4. Go OK. So before I go any further, I'm going to use that window to just select those 2 triangles, and then we can group. Now, as it said, until that point where you save the file, you can group and ungroup as much as you like. It's just if you go back to that group after you've saved it, then you can't ungroup it. Oh, blimey. Uneven road, upturn. Beware of skid marks. Okay. So, a little wiggly car going across the road. Now I'm thinking gritting now. This is not good. So, there's our triangle. There's our background. And what Ian's saying is, because it's text, sometimes it would be easier to draw it onto our white background than to try and cut it out of it.
I could make your horses slow. Heavy blank crossing. Trees walking across the road.
I was going to say, beware trees.
Banana trees.
Heavy blank crossing, yeah. So, let's go for that one. What did you say, Ian?
What we're looking for?
Triangle going upwards.
Yep, that'll do.
So I'm going to add that in. And again, I'm not worrying about size. It's just got to fit within this outline here. So now we need to resize it. And it's always going to resize from the center. So you'll notice that as we resize that down, it's going to pull in from that center. But I don't mind keeping it adjusting to go, actually, it still needs to go smaller. Now if you go too small, if you line it up in the middle, and we can start to increase it that way.
There you go. Emma says that they have signs that say beware of drop bears, dangerous.
I'm trying to think what our funniest sign is, and I think ours is the heavy plant crossing, because we're like, yep, where's the tree?
Lynn says there's a local one to me that is a triangle with no horse-drawn carriages in it.
Oh, now that would be unusual. Okay, so we have our triangle. Would you agree that's about right?
No, it tends to come down more the same angle that goes with the other side of the triangle, so it tends to go sheer steep rather than far. It tends to go steeper. So it would be more.
Right, so running out of room on me little bit of paper. This is what I always recommend, keeping scrap paper by you. So there's our triangle.
Yeah.
Move around the corners. Okay, so you draw what you think.
So it tends to be more that way up level with that one, and it's just thinner, and then your gradient, rather than longer at the bottom and taller at the top.
Okay, that's fine. We can change that. So I'm going to get into that centre section now. If like this you can't get to that right shape, go OK, and we're going to go and use these arrows here because I want to just get to that one there. There we go.
Wouldn't it be handy if you had a notebook handy that? Lol.
Yeah. I could fill the notebook with this one. So, as Ian says, it's going to be more steep than that. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's up steep. And he says it's round the other way. So we will mirror it. There you go. So now, that's better. You're happy with that now?
That's better.
Okay.
Steeping. Yeah.
So now, because we want it to draw on the white rather than on the red, we're going to move that down so that it is kind of in the middle. And can you see that close enough? It's a bit blurry, isn't it?
It looks, but I don't know if it's blurry or not. But
Shall I tell you what? If I zoom in on there, do you want to zoom out on there? It might be a bit clearer.
That's actually better. Yeah, look, that's brought it up nicely now. Leave it like that.
Okay.
That's nice and clear.
So, now that we've done that bit, we can turn on our fill. Fill pattern should be on the solid. And our fill line space can be set to our pen. So I'm probably going to use quite a fine pen because I'm wanting to do the text. So I'm going to go and leave it at that 0.4mm. Okay, so your triangle is going to turn blue, which means it's now filled in. So, what text am I adding then, Ian?
You need like either a percentage or a ratio. So they tend to be ratios, so you want something like 1 in 4 or 1 in 8 or something daft like that. You know.
Okay.
1 in 4
So,
is incredibly steep, so you know.
I'm going to go for some nice bold text. If we press our number, we're going to get our number keypad. So 1, and this is going to be interesting. How do we do this? Because
it doesn't have a double dot.
It doesn't have a double dot.
How disgraceful is that?
So I'm going to do 1 space 4 and go OK. Now it's going to come in huge, but again I'm just going to set it as is for now because we're going to be doing something more complex. So we'll go back to add, pattern, choose our same font, back to number, and this time I'm going to do 2 full stops like so.
Rotate it.
And then I'll rotate it.
Hey. Double dot.
So then we have our 2 dots. So they're just sitting up here. We can go to edit, object edit, rotate 90 degrees. Stick it in the middle.
Around the ratio is.
You're going to say round the other way now, aren't you?
No, that's how it would be written, but do you know what it relates to?
Yeah, it goes, yeah.
Yeah, so for every 1 mile you drive, you go up 4 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And car goes.
1 in 4 is not that steep for a car. You think in a mile to go up 4 miles isn't that bad?
It depends on which car it is.
Wow, yeah.
If it's Uncle Anthony's.
Yeah. My mum's old random bar.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm going to move it up using the nudge just so I can get that positioning right. I'm going to go OK. Can I go to multi-select, select my other text. So now you can see why I put that space in the middle so that there is room to put those dots. I'm going to go OK. Group. So now that we have it grouped, it's going to act as one, which means that when we do our resize, it's going to keep that proportion for all those elements within that group. So now we can go and reduce that down, like so. Right down. I'm going to go OK. Now, I'm guessing it's going to rotate, isn't it, in, so that it's up in line with that angle.
Oh dear.
Am I right, Ian?
What's up?
It rotates to go up the side of the slope.
Usually, yes. So you might want to move your slope back.
I was going to say slope might want to move over slightly, so I'm going to use my nudge because it's just easier at this
Carol
point.
said she knows the feeling yesterday climbing over the Pennines in my little car to get to Manchester Airport. So my car was pulling a bit.
So I'm going to use the minus 10 degrees to go anti-clockwise. And then I can bring it over and go, actually now I can fine tune using that 1 degree function just to get it level. Now if at this point we're thinking, oh, it's still a bit too big, we can still take it down further. And we can still use our move keys to nudge, because once it gets quite small, then it becomes a bit more difficult to do it on screen, and it becomes easier to use your buttons instead. Also, don't be afraid to zoom in so that you can actually see what's going on a little bit closer up. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. Now what I would say is, because we're then going to shrink these two down, don't use that fill button on that text, because basically when you draw the outline it should be pretty much filled anyway, and anything else you can just do by hand. It's only going to be tiny. So I'm going to use my window and I'm going to select everything that is in that triangle, and I'm going to group. I can then bring this group down here, go into my multi-select so that I have both triangles selected, and again use group. I can bring those down then in size. So that they come right down, maybe a little bit bigger, just look at those other signs. So I'm just comparing that border to that border, and that looks about right. Go OK, ungroup just those two, then we can put that one back up with the red, that one's going to go with the white, we can go OK, save to the USB, OK, and it's going to ask you if you want to overwrite the previous one or if you want to create it as a whole new file, and it can overwrite it. OK, and there you go. So we've done all our designing apart from our roundabout sign which I may do tomorrow, and I will cut those out tomorrow so you can see how they're going to cut.
So tomorrow we're 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Because we're varying the times just to see how we do for views and people watching, interaction. So we're going for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Same channel, same place. But it'll be 9 o'clock in the morning. And then Thursday we are 12 o'clock and Friday we are 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
And if you haven't done so already, do join the big planner craft groups. That's ScanNCut and Papercraft courses, classes and workshops by Planner Craft. And I tend to put up lots of links in groups to different files that are either free or I think they're a good deal. they're versatile, as well as doing lots of links to bits and pieces that we're doing. So for instance, like the cheat sheets, which have a couple more to come, don't they? Because we're doing an Affinity Designer one and an Illustrator one.
Silhouette scale.
Yeah. There you go. There's going to be a list. If you don't have a ScanNCut in your Silhouette, watch this space, because there will be videos popping up on the Silhouette too. And take care for now, and we'll see you
Linda says,
tomorrow.
okay, thank you. 12 or 2 would be fab. So Linda was a bit later in the day. So.
Yeah, so that I know I certainly do. I couldn't have done 8 o'clock this morning.
No. 9 o'clock tomorrow is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And Carol says she doesn't have anything on at the moment.
Okay,
Cool.
so take care and bye for now.